fun watching the wild card week. I'd have had more fun if either team that we cared about was in it, but I still enjoyed some of the games. I didn't enjoy all the outcomes, but I did enjoy the games themselves for the most part. Even the ones that were a little bit lopsided were still kind of enjoyable. So for our picks, we both went 3-3. Neither one of us got the Chargers over Houston right. The Chargers just laid an egg. Maybe we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Baltimore was a very safe choice that we were very right on, and we both had Buffalo right. You took a chance on Green Bay, and I did not. And I took a chance. I didn't think I was taking a chance, but I took a chance on Tampa Bay, and that didn't work out. We both got Minnesota wrong. So, in short, there were a lot of upsets. Well, a couple of upsets. I mean, proportionately, like a third of them were upsets. But, we'll see moving into the divisional round what we get. So, that in mind, we start out with a team that we are kind of like secondary or tertiary fans of, I guess, both of us.
Yeah.
Partially because of their more I feel like because of their history than who currently is on that team. But, J.J. Watt and all them from years back, I still kind of keep an eye on the Texans. Texans are going into Kansas City, into Arrowhead. Kansas City's favored by 8.5. And this feels like the most... It feels like the most layup pick of the week for me. I know Vegas has Commanders Lions as the biggest spread, but this one to me is just like I just don't see it here. I think the Texans, I don't want to say they got gifted. They made some great plays, but Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw them 4 interceptions, especially in the playoffs. So I don't see any way the Chiefs don't walk out of here with a win and go to the AFC Championship. It just seems like a really good matchup for them. So I hope Texas wins, but I will take the Chiefs here. Which way are you leaning?
Yeah, I think I agree with your assessment. It's not that, obviously Houston had to show up and play, and I think they played just fine. But Justin Herbert in particular really kind of gifted them that game, right? You still have to make the play, but there were a lot of plays that they got to go out and make, which I think made that one of the easier games of the wild card week. So, I'd love to think that maybe they can, their defense will stand up and make a lot of plays against Pat. I have doubts there, but then, and run the ball to Mixon, who I think is easily the best running back on the field. But I don't think that'll be enough. I think that, Pat always seems to find a way to get it done, and they obviously have a lot of history at home. So yeah, there's a lot against Texans there. I think that's a pretty safe bet on Kansas City. So I will stick with them as well. I wish I could find a way to convince myself that Houston's going to pull that off. I just can't find that factor to push me over the edge. And that's it's actually in contrast, I think, to the Lions and Commanders game. And the reason was obviously the Lions have put a lot of questions to rest, right, in the last couple of weeks. They embarrassed Minnesota, and they just kind of continue to handle business. So, and they're rested and all that. So I think that that game will be very obviously this should be the Detroit to win. But I think the Commanders keep showing up and showing that they find ways to win. And I don't know. I think that if anybody's going to surprise us this week, I think they would be the surprise. So I'm going to take the risky pick and pick the Commanders in this one. See if Jaden Daniels has a little bit more magic to spend in that team. So I'll take the risk on this one. I do think it's the Lions to lose, but I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, I get that. I'd be tempted to take that as well. It's a 9.5 point give for Detroit. It's a 1 point more than the Chiefs over Texans. So if I were going to bet this, I would take the Commanders with the points, but I don't think I'd take it straight up to win. Unless he just has like a catastrophic day, I think they'll cover that spread. But I do think this is the Lions game here. They're just too, especially on offense, they're just too multiple. They're too diverse. They can run the ball incredibly well. They can pass the ball. They can just do anything. And while their defense is pretty banged up, their offense is pretty healthy. So I keep trying to talk myself out of it, but I'm going to take Detroit here before I make it's a decision I can't quite back up. So totally get why you take Washington, but I just can't wait this one. So, yeah. But we'll see. Hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully it's better than Vegas thinks it's going to
be. Yeah.
Sunday, 3. Weird time to have a game. It's the playoffs. We get the Rams at the Eagles. Eagles favored by 6. I think they would have probably been favored by more in like a regular, if this was like week 18.
Oh, yeah.
We were playing against the Rams. But the Rams had such a good performance against Minnesota. Short-term memory. That I think it skewed things just a little bit closer. So, in short, I'll take the Eagles here. I think the Rams had a pretty magical matchup for them. I think Sam Darnold pumpkined harder than any quarterback has pumpkined in the last decade. That one was so bad that people don't look at the Kyler Murray against the Rams from 2021 quite as bad. They're like, ooh, maybe Kyler played kind of mediocre, actually. It's like, no, it was still terrible. It just wasn't as bad as Sam Darnold. And I respect that his offensive line wasn't great and all that, but it was just, if you watch that game, those sacks were not all amazing defensive line or terrible offensive line. It was just, you are a deer in the headlights, man. Immediately, I go back to the whole seeing ghosts thing that he said. And so it's just, I don't think that the Eagles are going to be that. Their run game is better than Minnesota's. Their pass game has more options than Minnesota. I won't say it's necessarily better. There's more options. I mean, nobody's probably better than Justin Jefferson right now. But they have 2 or 3 or 4 targets rather than pretty much one. So, I think this is the Eagles game here. Good on the Rams, honestly, to get this far. I hate them, but good for them. But I think the Eagles are on their way to an NFC championship with either Washington or Detroit. So I'll just take Philly. And then we'll see what happens. Who you got here?
Yeah. I think that it should be interesting. Obviously, coming out of that last game, the Rams defense looks incredible, and it's like, oh man, they're a force to be reckoned with. Which I think the Eagles' offensive line is one of the best. I think that was actually on pretty good display in their last game. It'll be interesting, I think, to watch those two things. But yeah, I think that the Eagles are going to handle this one. I think for the Rams to compete in this one, you're going to need, Stafford to hit the home run ball a lot, and Puka Nacua to go crazy, which he kind of does. But I just think the Eagles had, like in their last game, even they just played a solid game and they can win. I don't think they need to press to win. I just think they need to play solid and not make mistakes. I'll stick with the Eagles on this one. I think that the Rams have achieved a lot. But I think this is as far as their journey will go. We'll see. And then last, and probably my favorite game of the week, is going to be the Ravens and Bills. I'm excited for this game, but I'm almost sad to see it because it's got to be the end of the journey for one of these two teams. And I just think that a lot of these two organizations and the way they play and how they play, man, it's a tough one to try to pick because for me, there's a lot to be said about Lamar and Derek and all of that, and they're great competitors, and I appreciate them both. And Josh Allen's will to win is so hard not to root for. Again, but the Ravens' last game, their new format this year, where it's, hey, Derek's gonna run, and then Lamar's gonna lob it into the end zone in between running. It has been so incredibly effective. And I think that the chance of us seeing that again in this game is pretty high. With that, it's hard to rule out Josh. If this is a blowout, I'll be so disappointed. I'll take, I guess if I've got to pick one, I'll pick the Ravens, I guess. Who you take? I should ask you first. I might just go the opposite.
Sorry. Someone posted this, and I won't get it completely right, but it was roughly saying through the first like 11 weeks or something like that, the Ravens defense was like 29th in a lot of metrics, specifically in passing. I mean, there was a point this season when I knew it was like, oh, you want to have a big passing game? Go play the Ravens. They're okay in the middle, but the outsides are just not up to snuff. And so since week 11, they are first in almost every category. They flipped the switch. They figured something out. I don't remember if someone got healthy or what, but something changed, and they have just hammered down. Not to steal from Pat McAfee show, but they have really gotten that straightened out, and I respect that. The Bills are kind of like the Eagles, though, I feel like, where it's just like they're very multiple. They can run the ball really well. They don't have a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley, but their run game is quite good, especially with Josh Allen attached to it. Yep. And then their pass game just keeps on working, and these young guys, they're just a lot of guys that work really well, and Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel and so on. And so it's not Curtis Samuel. Who am I thinking of? But it doesn't really matter. They just seem to have a very diverse set of wide receivers who are all working quite well. And so, yeah, this one is tricky. It's weird, even though I get where they're coming from, sort of, I disagree with the spread. They're actually favoring Baltimore in Buffalo by 1.
Yeah.
And I would probably just have this as a pick, basically. But it is a coin toss. For the sake of diversity, I'll pick Buffalo here. But I'll be sad kind of either way for the same reason you will. But also because I kind of want Kansas City to have to deal with as much as possible. And one of these teams is going to be out of their way. So I'll go for Buffalo here. I'd love to see them make it. And if I can just project my Super Bowl that doesn't have the Cardinals in it, it'd be Bills and Lions. It'd be Bills and Lions. And so, yeah, that would be nice. So I'll take the Bills. But
all right,
this is, they saved the best for last year schedule-wise. That should be – I mean, there's going to be entertaining elements in the other 3 games, but this one feels like 2 actual evenly matched heavyweights, not a 1 seed versus an 8 seed kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it should be good, man. Should be really good. But that's it. So there's not that much for this course because it's down to the final 8 teams. After this, these segments will be really, really short.
It's true.
But, yeah, we'll see what happens.